The alert came through on my work laptop at 2:14 on a Tuesday afternoon, right in the middle of a quarterly review with my team. My personal phone buzzed once on the desk beside me. I glanced down out of habit. Ryan Henderson has removed you from Henderson Family Updates. I set the phone face down and finished the meeting. 37 minutes. I sat through projections and renewal forecasts and a minor disagreement about vendor contracts with my phone face down on the desk and my expression completely neutral. My team thought I was focused. I was, just not on them. When everyone filed out, I turned the phone back over. Ryan Henderson has removed you from Henderson Family Updates. Below that, a second message, this one from a new chat I'd been added to briefly before being removed, just as fast. I'd caught the name before it disappeared. Henderson Blood. The preview showed one message from my mother-in-law, Patricia. Finally, a space just for us. Ryan. Thank you for setting this up. And beneath that, my husband David's name in the participant list before the chat vanished from my screen entirely. I sat with that for a moment. Then I opened my work portal and pulled up the Henderson family account. 14 mobile lines, 3 business internet connections across the family's 2 restaurant locations, and the catering warehouse they'd opened 8 months ago. A cloud backup system I'd personally configured. A VoIP phone system for the restaurants running through our enterprise infrastructure. Employee device management for their 9 staff members. All of it bundled under a corporate account I'd negotiated directly, using my position as a senior enterprise solutions manager at one of the largest telecommunications providers in the country. The account had been active for 6 years. I'd built it piece by piece as the family business grew. Each time they added a location or hired new staff or needed something upgraded, Patricia would call me on a Sunday afternoon. Lisa, the internet at the new place is slow. Lisa, Ryan needs a work phone for the catering manager. Lisa, can you look at why the credit card machine keeps dropping signal during dinner rush? And I would handle it, because that's what you do for family. The total discount value on their account, compared to retail pricing, was somewhere around $2,300 a month. I picked up my coffee, found it had gone cold, and kept drinking it anyway. David texted at 4:47. Hey. Ryan was being oversensitive. Don't read too much into it. I read too much into it. The backstory, since it matters. My brother-in-law Ryan had decided about 4 months ago that I wasn't sufficiently enthusiastic about his plan to expand the family restaurant business into a 3rd location. He'd wanted to use a property his college friend owned in a neighborhood I'd gently pointed out had seen 3 restaurant closures in the past 18 months. I'd pulled the data, foot traffic numbers, average household income in a half-mile radius, parking availability, a demographic breakdown of the area. I'd put it in a document. I'd been thorough, because that's also what I do. Ryan had not appreciated the document. He'd told David I was being controlling, that I didn't understand the restaurant business, that I acted like an outsider trying to manage a family operation I had no stake in. I had been married to David for 9 years. I had spent 6 of those years quietly making sure every phone in their family worked, every internet connection stayed stable, every data backup ran on schedule. I had eaten Christmas dinner at that family table for nearly a decade. I had learned Patricia's recipes and remembered everyone's birthdays and driven 40 minutes each way on a Wednesday night to help Ryan set up the VoIP system at his 2nd location because the installer had done it wrong, and they had a private event booked for Friday. Outsider. David came home that evening and sat across from me at the kitchen table with the careful expression of a man who knows he's already behind in an argument. Ryan gets like this when he's stressed. The new location fell through, and he's taking it out on people. It's not personal. I looked at my husband. After 9 years, I knew the difference between a man who believed what he was saying and a man who was hoping saying it out loud would make it true. David was doing the second one. Did you know about the new chat before he set it up? A pause. Just half a second too long. He mentioned it. I didn't think he'd actually do it. But you didn't tell me. I didn't think he'd actually do it, he said again. I nodded slowly. Okay. That was the entire conversation. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I went to bed at a reasonable hour and lay there in the dark, thinking about billing cycles. The Henderson family account renewed on the 15th of every month. I had set it to auto-renew 2 years ago because Patricia kept forgetting, and the restaurants would temporarily lose their business internet and someone would panic. I was the account administrator. The renewal required my authorization. The 15th was 22 days away. For the first week, I simply watched. David's family, blissfully unaware that anything had changed in their infrastructure, continued life normally. Patricia texted me twice about unrelated things, recipes, and a question about a mutual friend's address, as though removing me from the family chat was a separate matter entirely from the rest of our relationship. I answered both messages, politely. I had a work friend named Donna who had known me for 11 years, since before David, since before the Hendersons, since I was a junior account rep who ate lunch at her desk because she was the only person in the office who made me feel less invisible. "You're doing the quiet thing," Donna said, on Wednesday. "The dangerous quiet." "I'm fine. You went this quiet before you renegotiated the Caldwell contract and made 3 senior partners look incompetent." "What did they do?" "Kicked me out of the family chat." She stared at me. And nothing. I'm fine." She did not look convinced. The thing I hadn't told David, the thing I was sitting with privately, was that the exclusion itself wasn't even the worst part. I'd been excluded before. Ryan had a talent for it. What gnawed at me was the group chat name, Henderson Blood. Like there was a version of this family I would never actually be part of, no matter how many years I gave them, no matter how many Sunday dinners or crisis phone calls or 1 p.m. texts about a router dropping connection before a Saturday brunch service. Like all of that existed in a separate category from whatever they meant when they said family. Blood. I thought about the restaurant system I'd configured, the one running their reservation software, their staff scheduling app, their customer Wi-Fi, their entire point-of-sale infrastructure. All of it linked to the enterprise account. All of it dependent on that monthly renewal I had been quietly authorizing for 6 years without anyone ever asking where it came from. Week 2. The Henderson Blood chat, which I could no longer see but which David occasionally left his phone unlocked near me, was apparently deep into planning Patricia and Gerald's 35th wedding anniversary dinner, a private event at Ryan's second location. 60 guests. They'd hired a photographer. They were discussing the menu, the decorations, the guest list. David's sister, Claire, had volunteered to make a slideshow. At no point did anyone in that chat apparently consider who maintained the internet connection that would need to run the presentation. At no point did anyone note that the payment processing system for the bar service ran through the same enterprise account. At no point did anyone mention me at all. As far as I could tell from the fragments, David didn't realize I was reading over his shoulder. Except once. Claire, asking whether I'd been consulted about the tech setup for the event. Ryan's response was brief. "She's not involved in the planning. We'll figure it out." They would figure it out. David found me in the kitchen that Saturday making pasta and clearly working up to something. He'd been circling the subject for 4 days with the energy of a man trying to diffuse something without admitting there's anything to diffuse. "My parents' anniversary dinner is the 20th. You know that, right? The 20th. 5 days after the billing cycle renewed. Or didn't renew." I stirred the sauce. "I know. Are you going to? Are we okay?" "That's an interesting question," I said. I handed him a spoon to taste the sauce with. "Is it seasoned right?" He tasted it. "It's perfect." He set the spoon down. "Marina. Lisa. Right. Sorry, Lisa. I need you to know that I think Ryan was wrong. I should have said that more clearly before." I plated the pasta. "Thank you for saying that." He waited. I didn't add anything. We ate dinner, and he looked like a man who had narrowly survived something and wasn't entirely sure what. I want to be precise about what I did next, because I've had people ask since then whether I planned all of it deliberately. The honest answer is, I planned the inaction. I didn't do anything malicious. I didn't log into their systems and change passwords. I didn't reroute anything or delete data or cause any damage. I simply stopped doing the invisible work I had always done without anyone noticing it was work. I didn't call to remind Patricia that the monthly renewal was coming up and that I'd need to reauthorize it. I didn't flag to Ryan that his VoIP subscription was tied to the corporate account. I didn't mention to anyone that the Wi-Fi network at the second location, the one they were using to host 60 people for an anniversary dinner, was managed through an enterprise agreement that required active administration. I turned off the auto-renewal on the 12th, 3 days before the cycle date, and then I went to work and came home and cooked dinner and waited. The 15th fell on a Thursday. I was in back-to-back meetings from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. When I finally checked my personal phone, there were 4 texts from numbers I didn't recognize, 2 missed calls from Patricia, a voicemail from Ryan's restaurant manager, and a message from David that just said, "Call me when you can. It's not an emergency, but kind of urgent." I called David at 3:15. So there's apparently something wrong with the internet at the restaurant. Oh? And Ryan's work phones are showing some kind of account issue. And his manager said the payment system isn't connecting. I see. His voice got careful. Is this related to something? I don't know, I said. What kind of account issue? He read me the error message his manager had forwarded. Corporate account suspended pending administrator authorization. That does sound like it needs the account administrator. He was quiet for a beat. Lisa, I have to get back to my next meeting, I said. Let me know if it gets sorted out. It did not get sorted out that day. Patricia called at 6:30. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message that was carefully worded, warm, slightly strained at the edges. Sweetheart, I think there might be some confusion with the phone account. We're having some issues at the restaurant and I wasn't sure if something had lapsed. Give me a call when you have a chance. I thought about calling her back. Genuinely considered it. Patricia had always been kind to me, in her way. She brought me soup when I was sick. She cried at our wedding. She was not a malicious person. She had also said nothing when her son removed me from the family chat. She had not texted to check on me. She had not asked David whether I was all right. She had simply migrated to Henderson Blood and started planning a party. I texted back, "Hi Patricia. I'm sorry you're having issues. I'd suggest reaching out to the service provider directly and asking about administrator authorization. Hope it gets resolved soon." The response came 40 seconds later. "Oh, I think you're the administrator, aren't you?" "I am. Unfortunately, without a current service agreement, I'm not sure what options there are. I'd try calling customer support and explaining the situation. They're usually very helpful." I set my phone down. The thing about telecommunications infrastructure is that most people have absolutely no idea how it works until it stops. Ryan had known for 6 years that the family accounts were handled. He had known it the way people know that electricity comes from somewhere, comfortably and without details. When I told him 2 years ago that I'd upgraded their cloud backup to a higher tier because the restaurant data was growing and the old plan wasn't adequate, he'd said great, thanks, and gone back to his menu planning. He'd never asked what that meant. He'd never asked what happened if the backup failed, who was responsible, or under whose name the agreement sat. The anniversary dinner was 4 days away. By Friday morning, Ryan had figured out enough of it to be dangerous. He called David. David relayed the conversation to me that evening with the expression of a hostage negotiator working a situation that had gotten away from him. "Ryan wants to know if you can reauthorize the account." "Interesting. Does Ryan have my number?" "He said he'd rather go through me." "I bet he would. What did you tell him?" David ran a hand through his hair. "I told him I'd ask you. And now you're asking me. And now I'm asking you." I looked at my husband. This wonderful, conflict-avoidant, genuinely decent man who had spent 2 weeks trying to smooth things over without actually addressing the thing that needed addressing. I loved him. I was also very tired of the way he loved peace more than he loved fairness. "David, your brother decided I wasn't family. He put it in writing, literally, by naming a chat Henderson Blood and removing me from it. Your mother has known about it for 2 weeks and hasn't said a word to me. Your sister participated. And now the account I've been managing for free for 6 years has lapsed and suddenly everyone's very interested in talking to me." He's not saying any of that means. Then what does it mean? What does family only mean to you? He didn't answer. That was its own kind of answer. "I handle accounts for people in my professional life every day," I said. "I give them my expertise, my access, my time. They pay me for it. Your family has had that for 6 years without the paying part, because I considered them my family too. If that's no longer the definition we're working with, I need to know." David looked genuinely pained. "That's fair. I know that's fair. My parents' anniversary is in 4 days. Then your brother probably should have thought about that before he decided I was an outsider." I said it gently. I meant it completely. The next 2 days were illuminating in the way that crises tend to be. They strip away the comfortable fictions people maintain about themselves and each other. And what's left underneath is usually more honest, even if less pleasant. Ryan, from what I gathered through David, cycled through denial, blame, and a brief detour into the theory that I had intentionally sabotaged the account, which David had to explain was not technically possible given that I had simply not reauthorized a renewal. There was a difference between breaking something and declining to fix it. Ryan did not find this distinction comforting. Patricia called twice more. I answered the second time. Her voice was warm and tired in equal measure. Lisa, I owe you an apology. I let the sentence sit for a moment. For which part? For not saying something when Ryan took you off the chat. I should have. It wasn't right, and I knew it wasn't right, and I stayed quiet because I didn't want to deal with the drama. That was cowardly of me. I appreciated that. Patricia was not someone who used the word cowardly about herself easily. Thank you for saying that. Can you help us? I had been waiting for this question. I had been sitting with my answer for days, turning it over, examining it from every angle. I wasn't angry anymore. Exactly. I was something more tired than angry. Tired of being valuable in emergencies and invisible otherwise. I can tell you what the situation is, I said. The corporate account lapsed because it wasn't reauthorized. Getting it reactivated and restoring all the services to where they were will take a minimum of 3 to 5 business days under standard processing. The anniversary dinner is in 2 days. Realistically, the restaurant systems won't be fully operational by then, even if I start the process right now. Silence. The photographer's presentation, I continued, can run on a personal hotspot if the signal is strong enough. I tested in advance. For the payment processing, they'll need a backup system, a card reader through a separate retail account, or cash only for the evening. It's manageable. It's just not what you planned. More silence. Then, quietly, is this because of what Ryan did? It's because an account lapsed, I said. That happens sometimes when there isn't consistent oversight. That was as close to diplomatic as I was willing to get. There was one more conversation I need to tell you about, because it's the one that mattered most. Not Patricia's apology, not Ryan's eventual performance of remorse, not David's belated declaration that he should have stood up for me immediately. Those all came. But the one I think about most happened the night before the dinner. My brother-in-law Marco sent me a message. Marco was married to David's younger sister Claire, and he was the person in that family I trusted most, simply because he had never given me a reason not to. He'd texted me the day I was removed from the chat. No preamble. That was wrong, and I told Claire it was wrong. He hadn't tried to mediate or minimize. He just said the thing. His message that night was characteristically straightforward. Hey, I know you're in the middle of something with the family. I just want you to know that I think you've handled this with a lot more class than most people would. Claire and I are going to the dinner tomorrow, and I know it'll be awkward, but you've always been family to us, regardless of whatever chat you're in. I read it twice. Then I called him. I told him what I could actually do in time for the dinner. Not the full system restoration, but I could push through an emergency reactivation on the Wi-Fi at the location. Just the main network. No guarantees, but probably enough for the presentation. I knew the right people to call. It would take me about 2 hours that evening. Marco was quiet for a moment. You don't have to do that. I know. But the dinner isn't about Ryan. It's about Patricia and Gerald. 35 years is worth something. He exhaled. Thank you. Genuinely. Don't thank me in front of Ryan, I said. I'm still very annoyed at your wife's brother. He laughed. Completely fair. The dinner happened. I did not attend. I had not been invited, which, given everything, seemed like the family had managed to miss the most basic implication of their own situation. David went. I stayed home, ordered Thai food, watched something mindless, and felt the specific quiet of a person who has done the right thing for reasons that have nothing to do with the people they did it for. Marco texted me a photo during the reception. The slideshow was running on the wall behind Patricia and Gerald, their faces young and laughing in the early pictures, surrounded by their family and 60 people who loved them. The Wi-Fi held. David came home at 11 and sat next to me on the couch. It was good, he said. Mom cried during the slideshow. Dad made a speech. I'm glad. Ryan told Mom he was going to apologize to you properly. Not the word he used. The word he used was actually pretty rough about himself. I waited. I owe you one too, David said. A real one. None of this is awkward for the family one. I let you get treated like a utility that got turned off and on when they needed it, and I told myself it wasn't that bad because I didn't want to fight with my brother. That's not what a husband does. I looked at him for a long time. He looked back and didn't look away. That's a better apology than I expected tonight, I said. I've had 2 weeks to prepare it. I almost smiled. Almost. Ryan showed up on Saturday afternoon. Not because he felt good about what he was about to do. That much was immediately clear. He showed up because Patricia had probably told him to. Or because the account still wasn't fully restored and he understood, finally, that there was no version of this where someone else fixed it. He stood in my doorway with the posture of a man who has been wrong in a way he can't argue his way out of and knows it. He was sorry for removing me from the chat, for calling me an outsider, for going around me on the account questions and trying to use David as a buffer, for not acknowledging, in 6 years, how much of his infrastructure I'd quietly held together. I listened to all of it. Then I said, "You made a decision about who was family and who wasn't based on a disagreement about a business decision. And everyone went along with it because it was easier than pushing back. I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen, Ryan. But I'm also not going to hold it over your head indefinitely if you actually understand what the problem was." He said he did. I told him I'd restore the full account by Monday. I told him it would take 2 to 3 hours of my time to reconfigure everything properly and that I would do it because I was still part of this family. Not as a favor to him personally. I told him that the next time he had a concern about something I'd said or done, he could call me and say it directly, rather than creating exclusionary group chats. He nodded. "One more thing," I said. "The family chat. Not a blood chat, not a Henderson-only chat. A family chat that includes everyone who is part of this family by marriage or otherwise. The next time someone creates a secondary chat to exclude any spouse or partner in this family, I'm done managing anything for the group. Not as punishment. As a boundary. Because people who would do that are demonstrating that they don't actually consider me part of the family, and I have enough professional clients to keep me busy without providing pro bono services to people who feel that way." He agreed. I think he even understood. The full account restoration took me a Sunday afternoon and 2 phone calls to colleagues who owed me favors. By Monday morning, everything was running the way it had been before. 14 lines, 3 locations, all the systems humming along the way they do when someone who knows what they're doing is quietly keeping the lights on. The family chat reconvened under a new name. Henderson Family. No qualifiers. I was in it from the start. Things were not immediately comfortable. They rarely are, after something like this. There was a period of overcorrection, where Ryan was aggressively inclusive in group conversations, and Claire asked my opinion on things she'd never asked my opinion on before. Patricia texted more than usual. Gerald, who had said almost nothing through the whole situation, pulled me aside at the next family dinner and said, simply, "You were right to hold your ground. I want you to know, I see that." Gerald was not a man of many words. That one landed. Marco and I started texting more regularly. Not about family dynamics, but about actual things. A podcast he'd started listening to. A local restaurant we both wanted to try. A book I recommended that he finished in 4 days and came back to discuss. It turns out that when you get through a family crisis together with someone, you discover whether you actually like them or whether you just tolerated each other at holidays. We actually liked each other. The business question, the 3rd location Ryan had wanted, came up again about 5 months later. Different property, different neighborhood. Ryan asked, through David, whether I'd look at it. I pulled the data again. This time, the numbers looked reasonable. Decent foot traffic, complementary businesses nearby, a demographic that matched their existing customer base. I told him so. In another document, equally thorough, he thanked me for it. He used the document. The location opened 6 months later and was doing well the last I heard. The account still runs under my name. 14 lines now, actually, because Ryan added a new manager position and needed another work phone. I got a notification when the request came through. Ryan Henderson has added a line to the Henderson Family Business account. Administrator, approval required. I approved it in about 45 seconds. Because that's what you do for family. Real family. The kind that includes everyone. The kind that says your name in the room when you're not there. The kind that had the decency to be ashamed of itself and then do better. As for the Henderson Blood chat, I only know it existed for 11 days before it quietly dissolved. I never saw the messages inside it. I don't particularly need to. Whatever was said there ended at a restaurant anniversary dinner with a slideshow running on network I fixed. and a woman crying happy tears about 35 years next to the man she loved. That felt like enough. Though I'd be lying if I said I didn't take just a small, quiet satisfaction in the fact that those 11 days cost them a week of IT chaos, a near disaster at their parents' dinner, and a very uncomfortable Saturday afternoon conversation on my doorstep. I'm human. Sometimes the best lessons about who belongs in a family come from finding out, the hard way, exactly what gets lost when you decide they don't.